Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Real with the Laura VanHart. Thanks so much for tuning in. So as you know, the market has gone all different directions the past 2 years, but right now we're still very much in a seller's market. So say you're buying. What is it looking like for you, and how are you going to leverage your buying power in a very strong seller's market? We know that it's going to take a little bit of time for the market to neutralize a little bit more or even swing to becoming a buyer's market. So you want to be prepared. Real estate is still the best long-term investment, and it has consecutively been that over the past 11 years. That's over gold, stocks, and bonds. And so it's not changing anytime soon. And the reason that is because homeownership is a catalyst for building wealth and your net worth. And a monthly mortgage payment is basically kind of like having a forced savings account. And it helps a homeowner build their net worth by about 40 times over a renter at this time. So it's not a bad idea to look into owning property. So you're a buyer, you're looking, you're wondering what is going on in this crazy market. How do I overcome that? So we are still very much in a seller's market, and it will take a little bit of time for that to become more neutral or to even swing into becoming a buyer's market. And there's a few reasons for that. We've talked about it before, but one of the biggest reasons that we're seeing is low inventory. So it's very competitive because there's not as much inventory on the market. But secondary, the rates right now haven't come down as far as people would have liked them to have come down. So you've got a large amount of homeowners that are staying in their homes because they're sticking with their current rate. Okay, so you're buying a home and you know that it's gonna be competitive. And it can be a little bit scary sometimes. I've had some buyers just hold off and wait, or they continue to rent because they're afraid to get into the market. And I understand that feeling. So just recently I was working with a buyer who had been renting for a while, and they really wanted to get into a home. And we started that home search, and we looked at many homes, which is not uncommon to be really hitting the pavement and looking at tons of homes. Now, when they found the first one that they loved, we put in a very strong and competitive offer, and we got turned down. We ended up being number 2 out of multiple offers, which is great, but number 2 just won't cut it. Now that happened quite a few times as we looked at homes and put in offers, and if you're in that situation, it's a little bit discouraging. But my buyers were just resilient and persevered and kept moving forward and really kept their focus on what their goal was. And finally we came across the one that did stick, and we were able to seal in and lock in that deal. So what do you do when you're in that situation? How do you overcome those things? How do you prepare yourself for a multiple offer situation when it is a very strong seller's market? There's not as many homes that are available, so you have a limited things to look at and to view, and you're trying to get out of maybe a renting situation, or you just want to increase that net worth and do that in a wise way. How do you prepare yourself? So the first thing is just understand, look, people are a little bit scared right now. Fear is pretty normal when you're stepping out and trying something new. But don't be afraid. Instead of being afraid, switch that over to being prepared. So how do you prepare? And one of the first things to know is buying right now the right thing for you to do? So this is a good rule of thumb. If you're looking at staying in an area 3 years or more, it might be really wise for you to invest into property. Why is that, you say? Because it's going to continue to help your net worth grow, and basically putting that money into your property and your investment is going to bring you a better return. I say a 2 to 3 year mark, typically about 3 years if you're staying in an area, is really wise, because then it's going to give you a chance to see that return grow year after year. Now, what we do know about home values and what they're increasing at, it's not as wild as it was increasing back last year. We're not seeing 10 and 20% increase in home values, but on average, home values are increasing between 2 to 5% annually. So if you take that over a time frame of living in a home 3 or more years, you're gonna see a positive return. And one of the things that's really important to note about that is when you do sell your house, say it's at 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, you want to make sure there's enough equity in your home. So when you do like a seller net sheet, you see where that money is going, what you're looking to return on your investment, and what it costs basically to sell a home. These are important things to think about, okay? So don't be afraid, let's just be prepared. Why are some people fearing? Rate environment, obviously inflation will drive up rates a little bit. We're seeing a pretty steady rate environment where it's staying around the high 6s to 7s right now, just over the mid-year in 2023, but we don't know how that's gonna change. So there's always a little bit of risk involved there. And you have to make some wise decisions in deciding whether you're gonna jump in. So sometimes why people fear is because of the news of impending waves of foreclosures, and it's held buyers back. Firstly, I just wanna address that. We haven't seen that wave that the news has tried to tell us is gonna happen, and it's obvious that we're not in the same environment that we were in 2008. If these are the things that we're trying to overcome in our fears, someone is obviously buying homes, why not you? How to be prepared in a seller's market to buy. First of all, you need to speak to a lender and see where you're sitting in your lending. The second thing I would recommend is that you pay off any of your debt that you can get rid of. Just offload some of those extra bills and things. And then the last thing is save your cash. You want to have cash on hand. It's really important in the negotiating process and to make your offer very competitive against multiple offer situations. So your budget is set. You know how much you're going to spend, right? How do I compete in this market? And this is my budget. This is how much cash I have, right? So there's a few different things I want to encourage you to do. First of all, set very realistic goals for the home that you want and how that's going to work in with your budget. Be flexible on some of the wants and some of the needs that you have in a home. That might be subject to change. So if you're looking for a home and say you put in an offer just like my client did and didn't score the offer, sometimes you need to look back and go, hey, maybe I need to broaden my search or change some of my wants, change some of my needs, or maybe not everything on that list is going to get checked off. And lastly, you want to think outside of the box, because if this is your first time home, it may not be the home that you're going to settle in for the next 10 or 20 years. So perhaps you do things a little bit differently, or you're looking at a different area or a different type of home as your first home to get you into the market, to put you in a position where you can continue to grow your investment. So I had to think about what was it that made my home buyer, after 4 times of putting in an offer, finally score that offer against a lot of competing offers, right? And there were some really cool characteristics as we went through the process. We learned and we grew as we went on, but my buyer was willing to take the risk, okay? So first things first, they did have their lending in order, and they understood their price range and their budget. But I said risks. They were willing to take a risk and actually put offers in on properties. And so they're willing to take that chance. And sometimes you have to just step in the water and see how it feels and go for it to see what you're gonna get with. Another thing that my buyer did is they took a very realistic approach after we got turned down. And we came in number 2 on multiple offer situations, which can be disappointing. But my buyers were like, let's keep going, let's keep forging, let's learn from this, let's try something new. My buyers were also very flexible in their needs and their wants, and when we searched for different homes, they kind of tweaked and changed those things. But they also became a little more educated on how to create a very competitive offer. Now, one of my roles as their realtor is to give them ideas and say, hey guys, this is what we can do. We can offer this, 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 and this, and give you kind of a range of how to make your offer as competitive as possible. Now that has to work within your budget and how much money you're willing to spend, but there's a lot of creative ways to negotiate offers and to make sure that you're really strong. So a few of those details, let me share them with you. Number 1, obviously you can offer over asking price. You can offer a lot over asking price, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that home will appraise. So it's really important for me to do my work, for your realtor to do the work, to make sure that whatever your offer price is, it's something that could possibly be feasible, or you got to make sure that you're willing to pay possibly over that appraised value to the seller. So those are things to understand and to think about in how to work your cash flow and how to use that for negotiating power. The second thing that you can do is you can offer to pay your own closing costs. That's one less thing that a seller needs to worry about, and that's less cash out of their pocket, obviously, but you also need to be prepared financially for those things. A third thing that you can offer is what's called an appraisal guarantee. It's also known as an appraisal gap. And so this is basically where a buyer is ensuring to the seller, hey seller, I'm gonna make sure that I give you X amount of dollars over the appraised value in your pocket at closing. You can set a cap, you can say up to a certain point. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but it's basically giving that seller some obvious insurance that you're gonna give them some more cash over the appraised value and guarantee that. Another thing that you can add to your offer is a price escalation clause. And sometimes these two things get confused between the appraisal guarantee and an escalation clause. So an escalation clause is basically different. Say you have several different competing offers coming in, but you want to offer a certain dollar amount over the highest competing offer. And you can cap that at a certain amount, saying, but no higher than this amount. So that kind of gives you an opportunity. I like to think about it as in maybe like The Price is Right, where that person comes in at 2001 and 2000 and $1. And so you're that person that's coming in a little bit higher than the highest offer that's given. Now there's other things that you can do to make your offer really competitive. Like, I always encourage everybody to get a home inspection. Sometimes people ask for no repairs. It's really up to you, but I really strongly encourage that you do check out the home, because you never know until it's inspected. You can offer a quicker closing time depending on your lender. Of course, if you are coming up against cash offers, sometimes that is really a sweet deal for some sellers, because it's a guaranteed appraised price. They don't have to deal with lenders, they don't have to deal with the time frame, and that can be really hard to overcome. So, in finishing, my buyer is super happy with the house that we found, so excited. It did turn out to be the one, so we're really, really thrilled. But it took a lot of work, and it took some time, and it took persevering and overcoming some circumstances and some answers that we didn't like hearing, right? So what if you're the seller? What if you're looking to sell your home, but you're kind of wondering, is this the best time? I hear that the market's pretty hot. Maybe I can score a lot on my home sale, which is great. You have lots of equity. You've been in the home for a long time. But then the question is, where am I gonna live next? I'm gonna become that buyer who's having a difficult time finding a home. These are things that are holding sellers back. And sometimes a seller right now is just simply in a much lower rate than what they can get if they get back into that buyer's market. So how do you overcome some of those things? What's important for you as a seller? So the couple things I really encourage my sellers to do is to be prepared. You may not sell right now. It is a hot market, so if you want to take advantage of being able to maximize the current market, then maybe it is a great time for you. But if you're not planning on selling now, and say it's 3 months from now or 6 months from now, take the time that you need to prepare your home. Get rid of things that need to be gotten rid of. Do some fresh painting that needs to be done. The honey-do list. I just talked to one of my sellers, and they're preparing their home for a great, listing. And we met last month, and I said, this is what you need to do, and they were ready to list right then. Can you just throw it on the market? And I said, well, we can do that. Or we can take about 6 weeks or so and do about 10 things to the home to get it in a better position in order to sell. So when people are coming to look at it, and I kind of gave them that honey-do list. And when I checked in with my seller, I was like, how's it going? And they're like, our list is a little bit long, so it's gonna take us just a little bit more time. And that's fair. So we wanna set those realistic time frames, but it might take them a month longer than what they thought about listing. But I think in the end, if they're able to get that home as selling ready, that they can maximize the money that they can earn on that. And when I showed them the difference, they don't want to leave 10 grand behind or 15 grand behind. Who would, if it's going to take just a little bit of sweat equity? So make sure you've got your honey-do list going. You're taking time to get your house ready. The second thing is pay off your current debt that you can get rid of and save your money. The more cash that you have on hand when you become that buyer, right? If you're looking to buy after you sell, then the more negotiating power you have. So be prepared. When you're looking to buy after you sell, know where the money is coming from. Are you going to use that money from a 401k? Do you have stocks to cash out? Do you have a good savings that you're gonna dump more money into just to be prepared for when your house does sell and it goes quick and you're ready to move in on a new home, that you are prepared. Understand right now where your home value stands. So just like I was telling you with that seller, I showed them where their home value stands right now with doing a little bit of repair work and things where it could stand, and what the projection for their home sale will look like. So what I like to do with a seller is sit down and look at what that seller net sheet looks like. Some people are ready to get in the market and they're like, woohoo, I'm gonna make a ton of money, this is great. But they actually don't know what it costs to sell a home. And so when we sit down, we can look at over all those costs and really find out what your payoff is, understand how much you're looking to spend in repairs and commissions and closing costs and all those details, and see what you're gonna net afterwards so you know what you're working with. This is really important to know those numbers. So what else can you do? Understand how the current seller's market can be to your benefit and what you can potentially gain from your home sale. You might have a choice. Should we list now? Should we list 6 months from now? Should we list in a year? I always tell my clients, I wish I had a crystal ball to look into and know and predict. We can only look to what has happened in the past to help us determine how things may look in the future, and currently for like where inflation is going and how that's going to affect the market. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing is we're looking at our market analysis to the best of our ability. That's what I'm looking at when I'm doing your market analysis on your home and trying to make the best decision. But here's what we know now is that it's still a very much a seller's market. So it might be the right time for you to cash in, take advantage of that, and really bring in the best investment. Another thing to do to be prepared is to broaden your search as a seller who's looking to buy. So you're gonna sell your home, and where are you gonna live? These things are usually done simultaneously. If you're planning on relocating or have different plans to move out of the area, but if you're staying in the area, you might broaden your search on where do I wanna relocate? What are my home needs? Do I need this much house? Do I need to downsize? Do I need to have a larger home? These are all very important things, but if you broaden your search and you kind of change the criteria, you might find that there's things that you didn't think about and what you might want in your next home. And it can also benefit you in making those decisions and maybe using your money as wisely as you can in your next home purchase. Ultimately, let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's talk about your real estate goals and what the year looks like for you. Maybe you have kids that are moving out of the house. Maybe you have, job changes that are happening for yourself, or your new endeavors are taking you in a different direction. But let's plan this out and come up with the best situation for what is happening in your life. I look forward to sitting down and having that talk with you. So reach out to me. Thanks so much for tuning in today. So grateful that you checked out my channel. Please like, subscribe, and share if you will. And look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.